I trusted her long before I understood who she really was. Not because she was perfect, not because she was gentle, but because she was family. She entered my life quietly, with smiles that felt harmless and words that sounded supportive. Everyone around me believed she cared. They told me I was lucky. They told me I should be grateful. What they did not see was how carefully she watched everything I had. The way her compliments carried comparison, the way her help came with questions. I stayed silent, thinking patience was strength and loyalty would protect me. I believed silence would keep the peace. I did not know that silence, when misunderstood, can invite destruction instead of safety. While I was trusting, she was collecting details. While I was building my life, she was learning how to step into it. I thought silence meant control. That was the first mistake, and it was only the beginning. At first, nothing felt wrong. Life moved forward in simple ways. She was always present, always listening, always offering advice that sounded thoughtful. She remembered details about my goals, my fears, my plans for the future. People admired our closeness. They called it support. They called it loyalty. What they did not notice were the subtle shifts. A comment framed as concern, a question disguised as curiosity. She asked who I trusted, who I worked with, what opportunities mattered most to me. I answered without hesitation, because family does not compete. Family protects. At least that is what I believed then. Slowly, conversations changed. People began mentioning things I never shared publicly. Ideas I discussed privately appeared in places I did not expect. Still, I ignored the signs. I told myself I was imagining problems. I chose comfort over awareness. And in that choice, the ground beneath me quietly shifted. The betrayal did not arrive loudly. It arrived disguised as coincidence. A missed opportunity here, a delayed response there. People stopped returning my messages. Plans changed without explanation. And somehow, she always knew before I did. She appeared sympathetic, supportive, concerned. She offered comfort while benefiting from my confusion. I noticed how her influence grew as my presence slowly faded. Stories were retold differently, details were adjusted, truth became flexible. When I questioned it, she reassured me gently. She said I was overthinking. She said stress was affecting me. I wanted to believe her, because believing was easier than accepting betrayal. Each step she took forward was built on information that came from me. She did not steal loudly. She replaced me quietly. And I remained silent, thinking honesty would reveal itself naturally. I did not realize how dangerous silence becomes when someone else controls the narrative. The truth did not reveal itself dramatically. There was no confrontation, no confession. It arrived through a conversation I was never meant to hear, a voice speaking confidently, using my experiences as her own. She spoke about decisions she had never earned the right to make. She explained choices I had never agreed to. In that moment, everything aligned. The missing opportunities, the changed perceptions, the growing distance. She had been speaking for me, deciding for me, shaping opinions without my knowledge. And she did it calmly, not with anger, not with cruelty, but with strategy. I felt something break inside me, not loudly, not visibly, just a quiet realization that trust had been weaponized against me. I wanted to confront her immediately, to expose the truth, but I stopped. Because I understood something important. People who manipulate quietly fear silence more than confrontation. Anger arrived late, after shock, after disbelief. I replayed every conversation, every moment I ignored. The signs were always there. I simply chose not to see them. I blamed myself for trusting too easily, for protecting peace at my own expense. Part of me wanted justice immediately, public truth, clear exposure. But another part observed carefully. I noticed how comfortable she had become, how confident her lies sounded. People believed consistency, not character, and her stories were practiced. I realized confrontation would give her control, drama would feed her performance. So I chose restraint, not weakness, restraint. I stopped reacting, stopped correcting misinformation. I allowed silence to replace defense. And something unexpected happened. Without my responses, her stories required more effort. Details began slipping. Silence was no longer passive, it became strategic. And for the first time, I felt clarity instead of anger. I withdrew without explanation. Not emotionally, not dramatically. I simply stopped participating in conversations designed to control me. I stopped explaining my intentions, stopped justifying my choices. Silence gave her space to speak freely. And when people speak too freely, patterns emerge. Her stories grew complicated, timelines shifted, motives blurred. People began noticing contradictions. Questions appeared, quiet ones, careful ones. I answered none of them, because truth does not need defense when lies carry weight. The more she spoke, the more she revealed herself. Silence allowed others to form their own conclusions, and that frightened her. She tried provoking reactions, testing boundaries, but silence remained steady. No explanations, no arguments, just presence without participation. I learned that silence forces honesty to surface, not immediately, but inevitably. And when the truth finally rises, it does not need announcement. It arrives recognized. Confidence made her careless. Success removed caution. She believed control was permanent. During a public conversation, she shared a version of events that conflicted with everything she had said before. At first, no one reacted. Then expressions changed. Someone asked a question. Another followed. Details did not align. She corrected herself too quickly, then too slowly. The room felt different. Not tense, not loud, just aware. She looked around, expecting support. No one interrupted, no one defended. Silence filled the space. Not mine, theirs. For the first time, she had to explain herself, and she struggled. Her confidence fractured because lies require attention, and attention had shifted. I watched without satisfaction, without anger, just understanding. The truth did not need my voice, it needed time, and time had finally arrived. The consequences unfolded quietly, without confrontation, without accusation. People stopped including her, stopped trusting her words. Opportunities disappeared the same way they once disappeared for me. Gradually, silently. She noticed the distance, she felt the shift, but she could not trace it back to me, because I had said nothing. Karma did not arrive dramatically. It arrived logically. Trust eroded, reputation weakened, control vanished. She attempted to reconnect, to explain, to repair, but credibility does not return easily once patterns are recognized. I did not celebrate. I did not feel victorious. I felt relieved, not because she lost, but because truth regained space. Karma did not punish her. It exposed her. And exposure carries its own consequences. Without my involvement, without my effort, silence allowed balance to return. And balance does not require revenge. Life slowly corrected itself, not immediately, not completely, but enough to breathe again. People reached out cautiously, asking questions, rebuilding trust. I did not explain the past. I focused on the present, because healing does not require reliving betrayal repeatedly. I learned that recovery is quieter than damage. It happens in small moments, in regained confidence, in peaceful mornings. The absence of constant defense felt unfamiliar at first, then freeing. I stopped needing validation, stopped measuring myself against distorted narratives. The experience reshaped me, not hardened, clarified. I understood boundaries better. I understood silence differently, not as avoidance, but as alignment. Some relationships did not return, others deepened naturally. Loss was replaced by discernment, and discernment felt like progress. I did not win, I evolved, and that mattered more. I never received an apology. I never demanded one. Closure does not always come through acknowledgement. Sometimes it comes through distance, through understanding, through the decision to no longer participate in cycles that harm you. I learned that silence is not surrender. It is selection. You choose where your energy goes. You choose which battles matter. Not everyone deserves explanation. Not every betrayal requires response. Karma does not need guidance. It follows patterns naturally. Truth does not rush. It waits for recognition. I regained my life quietly, without announcements, without revenge. And that was enough. If you are facing quiet betrayal, remember this. Silence is not weakness when it is chosen with clarity. Sometimes the strongest response is allowing reality to reveal itself. And when it does, you will no longer need to explain who you are.